Good morning. So, a year of the sacred self, that has been our invitation. And what a journey. What a journey that, as I slow down to all the different talks that we have done and all the different speakers and the events that we shared this past year, the deepest longing in my heart for yours was to know the sacred self. And then I realized, what if that's not their agenda? And I thought, well, a little bit too late. I just spent a year investing myself in those ideas. And so it's very personal to me, the sacred self. It's what inspired me when I was a young Methodist, just trying to figure out what are they pointing to? What are they speaking to? What is this divine self? And then I was introduced into yoga and chanting, and my heart opened in a way that influenced me for the rest of my life to continue seeking and to want to really know that on a level that my heart stayed true to it, that I no longer allowed myself to wander off into suffering in my own self. So the spiritual practice, the reading that from Mark Nepo that Damien did so beautifully, the inner life of any great thing will be incomprehensible to me till I develop and deepen an inner life of my own. So as I was preparing for this, and there was an invitation, one of the practices is to drop into the heart space. So I invite you to bring to mind something or someone that you have dismissed, and bring that person before your heart's open eye. This is one of the practices of Mark Nepo. Because you see, we have the eye that stays open and triggers our mental thinking with the brain, but there's the heart mind, there's the heart brain that takes something deeper. And my confusion with that for a lifetime was, if I just went to the heart, it would be a lot easier. But no, it's almost more challenging, because then it's like a washing machine of tumbling around in my thoughts. And I thought, when I look at something that I've dismissed and I bring it before my heart, it starts to tumble and move and be influenced by my thoughts on it. And then I'm triggered into my own personal suffering. So I'm inviting you, and it is challenging for me, so perhaps for you, to drop it into your heart space and open your heart's eye to that and breathe with that. That's the ingredient, is to breathe with it. And the more you breathe with it, the more you allow yourself not to wall off the heart in any one of the chambers of the heart, to breathe that deep breath, and to know that as you do this, you are transforming what has been held in the mind, and it opens to the sacred self. It makes me emotional because I spent a sleepless night with what I brought up yesterday as I was preparing the talk, and I thought, well, now I'm just hung up in my story again. What's that about? And I wanted to just wake Charlie up and say, do a treatment for me. I can't sleep. I'm into the mental anguish of my stuff. And so then I thought, no, I'm going to breathe with it through my heart and transform it. Because there's a calling home to the heart that is beckoning me to a higher understanding. It is the sacred self. It is that which I have been longing for a lifetime. To lead my way, to lead our way, to watch the evolution of the world, to lead all our hearts by the sacred self. So The invitation is to hold on to that long enough until you see with love. Whew. A lot of stuff has to get out of the way sometimes to see with love. And the other part of that is, are you willing to even try? Are you willing to try? And you show that. You walk in that light. Because when you do that, this thing, this person, suddenly becomes different. Suddenly becomes the catalyst of your spiritual eye to open, whereas before you might have been complacent. Or you might be thinking, I'm there, I've got it. I'm a peaceful person, I'm a loving person, I am it. But are you? Until you are triggered by that thing, that person, that what is. So Mark Nepo says, do you see with love? And are you willing to try? Our willingness to give voice to whatever is happening to us in the midst of it, Mark Nepo. Love only becomes real in the world through our ability to respond. Being your true self gives others the opportunity to transcend their limitations by acting on their love. It gives the other person and yourself a chance to show up. Silence allows the unconscious holding of any inequity or imbalance to stay. But giving voice to or expressing our hurt, our confusion, our questions that we have, this all gives it a chance to stop a pattern of mental anguish, of mental repeating. And it's done with love, and it breaks that pattern. It breaks that as we align ourselves and we open the eye to the sacred self. And we give each other a chance to say what we can do to change this. And that is when you get a quickening of the divine, a spark of the divine, and you say, I am quickened to know a greater idea. These are lessons of truth. And we began with Wayne Dyer's book, Your Sacred Self. And we wandered through the chapters, and Reverend Mary and I found other sources to inspire us to open up these ideas, to make the decision, as the title page says, to make the decision to be free. Why wouldn't we want that for ourselves and for our fellow man? Why wouldn't we not want that for this world that we realize really has no boundaries? We are global citizens, and so our idea for 2020 is to inspire us to really pull back and spend some longer time in deep reverent silence, in deep reverent dialogue, through sacred services, through looking into the wisdom of those that have really tapped into some of the secrets of the sacred earth, and through nature, to inspire us that we have a role to play to heal this planet for all of our children yet to be born and that are born. There's so many little people that are being born right now, such precious little souls, that they deserve our attention to this. We're never too old to make a difference in this world. So what is your true self? What is your sacred self? Do you know her? Do you know him? Do you know it? Are you aligned with that? The only way to discover the deepest fulfillment of the self is to recognize where the ego sits in you. The ego sits in you. Where is that? We need that ego to kind of structure ourselves, to be unique, and to have personality, and to have a sense of right and wrong, and morality, and a sense of our individualized self. Though deeper in that is the one that we blend with all, and it is that true self. But that ego, we need to see what sits inside of us. Gangaji, one of my favorite spiritual teachers to reflect upon, she says this: the ego is a basic sense of ourself as a separate individual, a separate ego. But what is that really? Can it be directly experienced? Does it need to be eliminated in order for us to be happy or to be spiritual? Ego is the I, the thought, I am. And there's where the puzzle begins, because we start to say, I am the body. But are you the body? And we become, something happens to the body. And we become focused. And our mind starts saying, I am the body, I am the body, I am the body, my body, I am the body. What's going on with my body? I am suffering because of my body. Something's not right in my body. Funny thing happened. My son called me while I was doing this talk, and he says, it was FaceTime. And I said, oh, hi there. And he says, hi, I just wanted to look at your chin. We can look at our chins. And I went, my double chin? And right away, I started trying to adjust my angle in FaceTime. And then we both started laughing. I says, I'm just writing how we're not the body, and now I'm all obsessed on how good I look in this FaceTime thing. I said, it happens so quick. It comes from behind us and sparks us into a curious play with this to remind us, are you the body? Am I this or am I that? So we experience it, Gangaji says, as we identify ourselves, and we can empower ourselves through the ego. But also, as Gangaji says, it can also become the root of self-hatred, self-torture, self-love, and self-transcendence. If we think it is our final truth, if we think our ego, or whatever we name the I am after, if we think that that's our final truth, it can lead to unnecessary suffering. And we're seeing this played out in the world, and the world is no different than our individualized consciousness, because it's all pointing to that. There is a universal consciousness that we all play in, and we all participate in every way. Our thoughts come from that one great mind, that one great consciousness. So if you live in a belief that, back to the body, if you're limited to the body, and it becomes a paralyzing self-obsession about your body, to preserve this body, the fear around the body, and these judgments begin to override you. And then we begin to defend, and we begin to separate ourselves from the divine self, from the true self. We close the eye to that divine secret self. And then our defenses start to build all around that, and we protect it with all that we have. We start to spend all our money on protecting that, whatever that was. And that leads to the suffering. So some of my wanderings of my mind led me to Sri Aurobindo, who is challenging for me to read. And I picked up this over the holidays, this beautiful book of this man, this wisdom, and he was one of the last teachers of Ernest Holmes. And I've picked it up many times, and he talked about supramental. And I thought, what is supramental? Is he just saying it wrong? And, judging him, humbling. But I realized he speaks of the supermind. Now we're caught, follow this, as I follow it in my own self, because I have to keep reminding myself, I follow my mind, my human mind, my mind that has been imprinted with hurts and defensiveness and its story and its neurons that synapse in such a way that I'm drawn back into that pattern of thought with this mind. But there's a supermind. And it is the one consciousness of the divine. So he breaks that down into lower and higher hemispheres. So basically, first happens is matter, is the physical matter of all things. And then life, that vitality that infuses that matter with a sense of vitality and source and movement. And then mind, the intellect and our intuition. These are not bad things, but then it's just these levels, matter, life, mind. Then supermind comes in. And this is where we have supermind, when we're in the sacred self and we have that unified field, that connection. In all diversity, we recognize there's only one here. There's only one love here. And then when we can allow ourselves to tap into supermind, then we go into Satchitananda that is in every scripture of the Vedic text, Satchitananda, and that is Ananda, Chit, and Sat. As I go backwards on that, the Ananda is bliss, and Chit is consciousness, and Sat is existence. So it is the pure understanding of the bliss of consciousness and existence as we dwell and we think about ourselves from the supermind. Now this, Satchitananda, what has driven me personally. It is what infuses my enthusiasm about sharing a conversation, not a talk at you, but a conversation. Because it's my intention that as we share, you're thinking, where am I in what is being said here? Because we're all on this journey. We all have the mind, but now we're looking at the supermind, and the idea that has led us into that idea is dwelling in the sacred self, is lifting that eye of the heart to know this. So this is something from Sri Aurobindo. Because man is a mental being, he naturally imagines that mind is the one great leader and actor and creator, the agent in the universe. But that's an error. Even for knowledge, mind is not only for the greatest possible instrument, the one aspirant and discoverer. Mind is a clumsy interlude between nature's vast and precise subconscious action and vast, infallible, superconscious action of the Godhead. I have to break that down. I have to go so slowly in that. There is nothing that mind can do that cannot be done better in the mind's immobility and thought-free stillness. You see, the spiritual practice of whatever it is, whatever your choice is, if it's a walk, if it's gardening, if it's hiking into the beautiful mountains, whatever that is for you, it's your journey of solitude and dwelling in silence. It's taking the earbuds out and just listening to the divine, to listening to that supermind of divine consciousness, to allow yourself to fall into that stillness. He goes on to say, when the mind is still, then truth, capital T truth, gets a chance to be heard in the purity of the silence. Truth cannot be attained by the mind's thought, but only through that silent journey. Truth lives in the calm, wordless light of the eternal spaces. She does not intervene in the noise and cackle of logical debates. So, So as I stewed and tumbled and dreamed and wrestled with what became before my heart, and I was saying, breathe with it, breathe with it. Do all that you know and let it go. Let it be blessed and free yourself of it. Go to the silence. Go to the chamber of deep reflection where it's become silent and those voices no longer torment you. And we breathe. And there's that vital force, the prana, the chi, the evidence that we are held. As we breathe into that silent space, thought in the mind can be truth's brilliant and transparent garment. It is not even her body. Look through the robe, not at it, and you may see some hint of her form. There can be a thought body of truth, but there is a spontaneous supramental thought and word that leaps fully formed out of the light. So, I get so passionate about that because 68 years been working that. And then to be in a beloved community that has gone through so many transformations through all the times I've been here. I've been here over 30 years. We've been through so much together, individually and collectively. And yet, how do we get to that place of just being, as Gangaji reminds us? How is this going to appear? Hand in hand, heart to heart. We breathe, we tell our story. We tell our story here because we know that we will be met with the higher knowing, with the truth that is leading all of us out of the busy, torturous mind into the silence, into the one mind, into the divine mind, into the God mind, into love itself. And then, whether words are spoken or not, we reach out and we kiss each other and we love each other and we hold each other's hand through the most difficult challenges. And we know a higher truth, whether you believe it or not. This other from that God mind knows it for you, and they hold it for you. That's the beloved community. That's what we have here. That's what 2020 is going to be about here. It's having that 2020 vision they're calling the overall theme. That's what it is. So, Gangaji is saying the illusion of the ego and how real it can appear, like any mirage. We can think it's so real. It has a power over us because we haven't questioned it deeply enough. It takes the inquiry. It takes the deep inquiry in your meditative practices. Why is this? Why? Who am I here? Who is that there? Why is this going on? What is mine? What is mine and what can I let go of? The sacred self dwells in the eternal and everything else is passing and changing. So God is, I am, and we are never separate from this truth. It is the leading principle of this teaching. God is, I am, the first two steps of our treatment. We stay there and we allow our mind just to go into that vortex of truth. We open up into that vast supermind, falling away from the illusions that have kept us separate. So, climbing, this is something else Sri Aurobindo said, climbing the mountain peaks. We've done that. Remember how you are here in your spiritual when you first started, but how far you've come when you've climbed the mountain peaks and you look back down and you realize and you savor what truth you know. And that's the platform that you build a greater understanding upon. It's truth when you know it is filled with love, peace, joy, beauty. Those qualities of the divine, it's not tainted by worry. And then there, when we allow ourselves to be transformed there, we become the instrument of the divine. So in closing, and in the closing of the sacred self, I invite you into prayer and into the spiritual practice that invites you into feeling what it means to live this deep self. Because there is a truth here, especially for you wonderful 9 o'clock people. As we tap into this, we recognize, oh, this is my challenge. Oh, so I see. Oh, so I see. And now, when I see and the truth is revealed, now I can serve. Now I am the instrument. Now I am that. So close your eyes. Plant your feet solid on the earth. That is posturing yourself before the divine. You posture, you shift, you breathe, your heart shifts a little bit more inside of you. You thought it was open. Open more. Open more, breathe more. Let the eyes that are so close to our thinking mind, let the eyes close, and let the thoughts dwell in the heart space of your body. And remember, at the beginning, you brought forth that issue, that person that caused you to feel separate. We breathe love through that, and we go deeper. The prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Lord, where there is hatred, let me sow love. Lord, where there is injury, pardon. Lord, where there is doubt, fill me with faith. Where I have felt despair, I awaken hope. Where there has been darkness, light opens my eyes. Light releases the barriers and the walls of my heart. Where there has been sadness, I breathe deeper. This sadness, joy revealed. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled, but to console. May I not so much seek to be understood as to understand. In this transformative moment, may I not seek so much to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying to self that we are born to eternal life. We breathe that. That's love. That's the sacred